Joining us this evening is Grant Buday, who is, I want to say Main Island resident first, because that's important, and writer, author, and a very funny man. I read your book.
Funny, how you mean?
Yes, nice, funny, very, I enjoyed the book, From Main Street to Main Island. Welcome to the show, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
And it was the right book for me to read right now. I've been myself living on Main Island for almost 9 years. I had a whole bunch of questions. I have a whole bunch of questions I want to ask, so I'm just going to start throwing them out. I'm fascinated when I read books, and as well I sort of not know you, but have contact with you. And it always amazes me how people can get a book together. Like, how does a book come to you? Does a book come to you, or do you make it happen?
Oh, gee. Well, this one is essentially 4 or 5 or 6 essays, including one piece that's semi-fictional. So it wasn't really an overall singular thing. I think initially I wanted to do something on the Japanese on Maine.
Oh, okay.
And there's quite a dramatic and traumatic story there, but that just seemed at the time a bit beyond me. I didn't have the resources in terms of contacts, and older generation on the island was not really willing to talk to me about it. You know, it's this a lot of strange dynamic regarding their involvement or non-involvement in various things like this. So it was just too sticky a subject matter for me. But it was just, and there was something immediate about the history of the place to me. I was living there, and I wanted to do something in nonfiction because it's a nice counterpoint to working in fiction. And it just seemed to me that there were so many interesting characters in the place, and I wanted to do something with it. And
it's very spot on in my experience of Main Island. It seemed to me too, it was very intimate of the people, certain people on Main Island, and yourself. Was that risky?
Definitely. I had to disguise a few identities, and you know, because you got to live with these people. And I'm saving the big Main Island book for when we leave. You know, I'm going to sort of
you've got to
yes.
store it away somewhere.
Right. Well, it forces you to really go and pay a lot of attention to them, because you don't have this wall of anonymity if you're dealing with people who you don't live around. You're going to have to come face to face with some of these people sometimes, and they're going to doesn't necessarily mean you won't depict somebody like them or them in a way that they may not like, but you have to take responsibility for that. So it makes you think about it more. And certainly some people were saying stuff. Are you still friends with that person? But I don't think anybody really gets lambasted or that's just a different project. So I think it's more of a celebration, and just the whole notion of moving from the city to the small town versus the small town to the city. Seemed an almost archetypal journey, transformation. Because for me, I had no idea that Main Island even existed before within even a month before we ended up moving over there. It was a completely different world. It's the Gulf Islands, right? I was this East End for the last 2 decades, so.
You've written 10 books?
Yep.
To me, that's quite prolific. Have you always been a writer? I know you talk about being interested in words and language. You were an English teacher, right?
For a while I taught at SFU and at Douglas College, yeah. No, I started off animating. I went to the arts, when I was still at Vancouver School of Art, I went into the animation program. And something went wrong. Probably me.
Didn't work?
Yeah, there's all, just changed directions and ended up getting into live action. Then from there, getting into scripting. I think because I'm completely inept when it comes to anything technological, certainly cameras. I don't know how all these people have any sense of how to run a camera, especially these complex jobbies here. Editing really wasn't for me either, so I moved into the writing aspect of it. And then I ended up quitting and going back to returning to SFU, which I had already failed at. But this time I went back and finished up a degree and just started focusing on words more. It seemed more fit for me, a solitary, occupation.
Was it a very conscious thing, or do you, it seems to me people who are sort of on the artistic side have a passion, or there's something drawing them to certain things. Was that how that happened?
I really think it was, looking into different mediums and finding them perhaps too social for me. As much as I liked filmmaking, and that was really exciting, there was just a lot of stuff going in terms of...
There's more team, or more of a group effort. Is that the...
Yeah, which is fine. I think I could be involved in that now, but at the time that wasn't really working out. And, there was certain things going on at home where I was in terms of, what are you going to do for a living and various things like this. And it seemed the best move to focus more on words themselves, as opposed to, which in some ways wasn't really forward thinking when you see the way film has taken off in Vancouver. I mean, it was just, if I had a bigger brain and would have been able to see the bigger picture better, I may well have stuck with film. I have had some film projects, over the years, but I think the solitary nature of it seemed more suited to my, hermetic nature.
So how did the different books come to you? I think I'm probably asking a difficult question. It's is it something you plan out? It sounds like you planned on writing, so
Well, I think I've backed my way into writing. It's I couldn't do this and I couldn't do that, but I wanted to be involved in something creative. I felt, it's the really only satisfying thing to be involved, or, in terms of artistically for me. So.
And so how does the book, Monday Night Man, and I think it was White Lung too, were up for some awards or whatever.
Right.
So what are they about, and how did they come to you? How did the stories come? And
Monday Night Man was a collection of stories, and it centers it's from the early 90s, and I was spending a lot of time at the racetrack. 2 years I got very into gambling and horse racing.
Interesting.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And it was a really interesting world of people. Similarly with, I guess, the Main Island book, is coming to the Main Island, discovering all this very enclosed world of people who've known each other for a long time, and some very interesting critters there. And similarly with the racetrack, it was absolutely fascinating realm of people that I got to know, and I went to the track with, and also the people who were just sort of in the periphery that you got to know, and the stories and the drama of the horse racing, the drama of betting, and the whole
social thing of it.
Yeah. It's a very tactile and intense. It's incredibly dramatic. I mean, you go there's usually 9 races on an average, and so there's nine dramas.
Why did you go there? Was it just out of?
What we used to call being an LSM, which is a low status male. You had nothing else going on, so you went and you had a kind of a social life there.
Oh, right? That's interesting.
Yeah. And it was kind of an ironic thing we did, because the group of people I hung out with, a lot of them had very good educations, or were extremely bright, but they were a bit warped in their obsession with horse racing, and some people came into it for a while and then moved on to other things, and some people were in it and stayed in it and are still in it, and it's just gambling is a very addictive thing. And there's a camaraderie. There's a camaraderie when you.
What about appreciation for the horses?
Oh yeah, the horses. Yeah, there's horses. I had no great appreciation for horses per se. I mean, they were interesting. Dogs are interesting, parrots are interesting, horses are interesting, and that was nice to go down there to the rail, because it smells. It's got this very ripe smell and all that, and to see the animals. They're big, they're physical. That's dynamic. It's tactile. It's fun, and see them race. But then it's back to did you win? No, but I could have won. If I'd only done this, woulda, coulda, shoulda.
And so when you're writing, or is it your job, or do you do it? I write half an hour every day, or is it, again, I guess I'm trying to find out, if it comes through you and then out you. How does that work?
I'd like to do 500 words a day if I could, but I can't always. But if I'm involved in something, and I don't have to go and do other things that drag me away from it, if I can get 500 words done, I feel pretty good. So I'm a chipper. I'm steady. I do something every day if I can.
And is it usually working on projects, or it doesn't matter, you just write no matter what it might be in the moment?
I've got many projects going simultaneously at all times, so if I wasn't starting on something new, I would be polishing, I'd be revising, various manuscripts that are constantly floating. I have 3 right now that are, open, so to speak, that I can approach. Yeah.
And so the first time when you were getting published, was there a process you had to go through to say, I am a writer, I want to be an author, and I want to publish? And what kind of step was that for you with your work?
Terrifying, that's the notion of saying, are you a writer, or are you a person who just writes? Or something,
for your private self.
Well, yeah. There's, because it's tremendous commitment, just saying, I am a writer. Well, you're many things, so I don't know anybody who's just a writer, you do lots of stuff, and oftentimes people say, well, do you make money? Do you make a living at it?
Yes.
If you don't, then you're not a writer, because money is the ultimate. Money and sex are the ultimate,
success? Is that what success is?
The ultimate markers, you can get somebody, those are two. So there was a long time I just would keep it as it's just something you do. And then once you get published, then you can say, well, yeah, you do have that. There's a little bit of you're on the ladder, so to speak. And then after a while, it just doesn't make any difference, because, you're doing what you're doing, and your sense of self is not completely involved, based on other people's opinions. It's always somewhat important, but it's never,
And who do you have? Do you have people around you who help you, sort of organize it or improve it or judge it before it goes out to the public?
Editors?
Yeah, or even your wife?
I make my wife.
Oh, that's interesting.
She's actually a trained editor. She's gone through. She went through the program at Douglas College. And,
okay.
And there's various people, a couple of victims I have. I press gang them into it every once in a while. Try not to use the same person all the time, because as soon as they hear your voice, they go, "Oh God, no, not another manuscript again." Yeah. So.
And so, very much, do you pick your stories, your writing on what's happening around you?
That's a difficult one.
In your books, how were some of them different than each other?
This one started off as a novel about an uncle of mine, and ended up being nothing at all.
About that?
Absolutely nothing at all. The first few drafts of it, the various people I got to read, there were one person who read it said, "This book is so horrible I can't even finish reading it."
This book?
Yes, because the early draft of it.
Oh, okay,
right.
Okay.
Not because it's badly written, but because the character is so horrible I can't bear to be in this person's head anymore. And that's not quite what I had in mind. So I ended up considering that and saying, well, is this the kind of book I want to write? And it wasn't really true to the spirit of the person I was
writing about.
Yeah, and it wasn't a biographical novel or anything like that, but it was based on a person who was, I had known all my life, and I knew certain aspects of their life, and I was fascinated by them, right? So I ended up going back at it and writing a whole, the majority of the book as a kind of the childhood and everything that leads up to the adulthood, which initially had been a fairly brief novel of about 120 pages and just about a certain phase in their adult life, and they ended up going back and giving them their childhood and exploring that, and it gradually became something completely different, and got rid of that character altogether, who will probably come back sometime as a subject of an essay, which I think would be far more suitable for the topic. So it is an incredibly long and laborious process, getting this thing finished, because it changed so often, probably more than any other book I've ever had. It changed so utterly 180 degrees from what it started as, and because I just didn't see any point in writing an ugly book. It just,
didn't want to.
It just didn't seem any point, and didn't meet the spirit of what I was after, and it kind of disheartened me, and it was also rather bewildering. That how it comes across. I thought it was kind of funny, but then I've often run into the problem where something I think is funny, other people think it's just, that's not funny.